Because there was this question in the Slack about, but I don't know if it was from you, about like the new variables UI and
Yeah,
environment scope.
yeah, that's exactly it. And then I was investigating um, the scope and the proposal of the CI variables. Jesus, where is this issue? It's like, where is it? Hold on. Here, found it. Better if I show you. Share my screen. Yeah, you can see it, right? All right, cool. So this one is, I completely changed the scope of this issue because, yeah, the description, everything was from 2 years ago. And we had designs that I think Chris and you worked on a year ago, but they were outdated and pajamas moved, anyways, I just had to redo everything. But while I was working on this issue, which the scope was initially to make it more visible or just like easier for people to select an environment wildcard while working on CI/CD settings. I realized that a lot of the changes that this issue proposed won't exist anymore because of the improvements and the change to the CI, the verify is going to merge now in 12.10, sorry.
There's a 12.9, they got merged, but then the wildcard environment selection mechanism, so you can say, all right, all environments that have this kind of like naming convention, they will match this rule. We missed that out in the 12.9 merge, so we added regression. So then we turned off the feature flag. We re-implemented that because it was an oversight. And then 12.10 it got merged, and then it will be turned on again and should be visible after 12.10 hitting github.com.
It's like this UI here, right? Where you will be able to select, for example, the scope and create a new environment scope. I can actually show as well from
yeah, so that is the old UI, right?
Yeah, that's like a node prototype. And let me show you so everyone also knows what I'm talking about. It's actually here on project settings, CI/CD variables. Yeah. So my issue is about when the problem at the statement was like when I'm selecting or searching for an environment here, and I say, I don't know, QA doesn't exist yet. It shows no matching results, but also shows create wildcard QA. But then a bunch of questions raised that is QA a wildcard? And I also saw a comment by you, Dimitri, that a wildcard actually needs to have this asterisk symbol next to it. And if I'm not creating a wildcard here, what am I actually creating? So those are the questions that are still open from 2 years ago and that I'm trying to get answers. But when I saw the implementation from your team, your no longer team, there's this YouTube video here. I think, who recorded this video? Let me mute. Yeah.
Clayton or Frederick?
Yeah.
Frederick, I think.
One of the folks. And one of the changes is that this drop down, it's not selectable anymore. It's just like a plain drop down. It's not selectable, not searchable. Yeah, here, let me show you. Yeah, you see? And I just wanted to like, is this a regression that we're talking about?
Yeah, this is the regression. This is the 12.9. So 12.10 fixes this.
Okay, good. Then I'll probably have to go back to work on this thing. So anyways, I just wanted to highlight because these are like the dependencies that we need to know about. But the UX for me was clear based on Dimitri's prototype from months ago. But then when I went to check the actual product, I was like, wait a minute. Why is this now just a plain drop down? And then my question, going back to the initial scope here, is like, how can our teams stay more, up to date and more in the loop? Because now that this is, since it's not in the product yet, I cannot move forward because my developers cannot just immediately build on top of what's there in the code base. And how do you think we can stay in the loop, because that's the point. The points are added to our 101 that we had. We really didn't go through those. Because I'm always going to be working on environment variables. I'm always going to be working on deployments. And sometimes it's difficult to track what the engineers are doing, not even what the UX changes that we have planned. So maybe not only from Dimitri, but from everyone else, how do you folks think we can stay more, in sync, in the loop about those breaking changes, this, I don't know, regressions? I'll stop sharing now. So,
so if I get so if I rephrase the question is how can we make sure we are aligned better when touching the same UI in multiple teams at the same time, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a bit of a strange situation that happens quite regularly in a way. Yeah, I think it's an interesting problem, both from like engineers pushing code to the same part. I think merge request widget has been one of those examples as well.
Yeah, and one of the pain points I found is that because my PM or my engineers, they don't have an overview of, not even just the overview, but they know that some things are in progress, but I think other teams cannot guarantee the delivery. So for example, in this case, they actually delivered, but there was a problem with it, right? So now there is regression, and a milestone later, I'm still working on things that are going to be built on top of features that are in progress. So my designs might not match what they're going to deliver. And I know that I'm going to have to, at some point, maybe not in this issue, but usually I have to go back to the design phase, to the drawing board, and then change things because the scope change or because the copy change, the acceptance criteria change for things. And with this issue in particular, I think with environment variables, I don't know why. I know it's because they had to refactor the whole page, but it's been very challenging to know exactly where things are and to have this, just a clear way to communicate on when can I start the design or when the design will be done. Yeah. Any thoughts or just random thoughts on that?
Good question. It's really hard to I don't know, it's really hard for me to come up with anything real quick. Curious, like it's probably related to of course, to the size of the UX team. That there at the same time there could be possibly so much work ongoing on the same milestone. Maybe we should create an issue and discuss this overall on the UX department level. I don't know.
It would be nice if we had like something, like labels. You say, all right, I'm touching merge request widget, and the other one is touching merge request widget. And hey, if the two of the same label are in the same release plan, then I don't know, some danger bond alerts us or something like that. But on the other hand, that kind of relies on our label hygiene, which can be not the best at sometimes. So then I would say an issue to discuss it further would be the right way to go.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm trying to do now is that since I'm not sure if you noticed, but I made an update to the issue template for new features, for feature requests, and all the way in the bottom we have now is this, cross stage dependencies, the cross stage feature, and labels I think will really help us like filter what's already existing. But it would be nice if we could, from the start, say that, hey, this is cross feature, cross functionality with verify, with geo, with whatever, because then it's not only the designer's job to go and have this conversation with another designer, but also PMs to have a conversation with other PMs, because it's difficult for me to say, yeah, I will prioritize this UX change, but what if other PM from a different group is not, and their engineers are not going to prioritize, and their designer is also not going to prioritize that. So I would like to share the monkey, give this problem also to other people, because I know that us as designers, we cannot solve everything because it involves coding, it involves engineering. So anyways.
But how would people know when it's, I mean, environment variables, it's very clear, but there's gonna be other areas where it's like less clear, like that cross ownership. So how will they know? That's kind of like one of the areas where I always have struggle is like, is this thing that I'm gonna be touching having an impact on someone else? And if it's gonna, because super, I would love to have the label, something that says cross stage, or like just having the group label of all the groups that affect that issue, right? That by itself should be enough. That I think what's hard is to determine, like it takes research, and that research takes sometimes like Googling like for like 30 or 40 minutes. Like, I mean, maybe that's too much, but like it takes time to understand the whole context of the feature, you know?
One of the places that I try to go is this page, the about GitLab / features, where it has like not only screenshots, but I can search for example, merge requests, geo, pages, whatever. And I know that it's not the ideal place, but I think in general, there's no like there's not a granular way to find who owns what. And that's one of the big problems. I know that, for example, I don't know, Andy works in Secure and then he works on dashboards and he works on some analytics things, but there are other designers that I'm not like familiar with. I don't know what they're working on.
Right.
And I really miss having this one place where I can see Rayana owns this, and that. And that crosses with what Juan owns and Dimitri, etc.
Yeah.
Now we have features, but then we don't have the granular design work around the features.
But how can we clearly identify, and do we do that often, what a designer owns? Are you referring to the, well, because it's kind of like hard, well, for example, for feature flags, we could say like Mike, right? For I don't know if anybody has any idea, like how can we define that? Is it a rule of thumb for us in GitLab that we have a designer responsible for a particular feature direction or something like that?
Yeah, I think in general you can find this information in the category pages, because you're always going to have I don't know, progressive delivery, like what you say, feature flags, you know, pages, this, and that. That's where those things live. I'm not sure.
You said.
Sorry?
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to make notes. Where did you say usually, like in the stages? So you go and see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the category, I'm trying to find one, verify. Let's see if I have something in Google. Release management. Oh my God. Where's that page that has like?
I think this one you mean. Throw it in the chat, that one?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm trying to find the one that yes, exactly, that has DevOps reports. Yes. Here, like starting from here. Oops. And then you have the name of the designer, you know, from that specific group, and you have like the categories under that specific group. But then you don't know that if DevOps reports touches merge request pages. You don't know if Code Analytics has dashboards, has settings, has the. I think from a design point of view, we don't have this this workflow. And I try to build this for release with Mike, release management and progressive delivery, where we went through all the features and where it overlapped, but it was a mural. So yeah, it's not really.
I remember that, yeah. Interesting topic, useful. I think it would be useful to try describe that. I see that also, like do you think it's like as soon as we define that, is it too fluid? Do you think people often change these kind of like areas of responsibilities, or it's more or less stable? Just curious if you would ever create something like that, how easily maintainable that would be.
Yeah, maybe we can create a script. Dimitri, do it. And Juan as well, you guys know how to do it. Just from a Google sheet, and then we cross everything. I don't think it changes that much. I mean, for sure, I can only speak for myself, but when I'm working on some features now, I'm definitely going to be touching more in analytics. And analytics, it's not per se, the core of release management, but I know that there's some overlapping work with secure and compliance, etc. But some of the things we learn on the fly. So it's definitely not a static document. It's not just a handbook page, This is a sadder topic than the corona. No, people are just like, bummer.
No, but that's a really good point. I don't know, maybe we could have, start with boring solutions, right? Maybe we could make a table and just ask everybody to fill in the things for themselves. And maybe it can potentially be a handbook page right now that we can be maintaining all together. Because I can imagine that it probably would be often visited by product designers who are trying to tackle certain thing. And then, as soon as we bump into that, we can update information. So maybe it's a good place just to start from something like that and just asking everyone on the UX department, hey, can you fill in your features, your the DRI for yourself, and help us to collect the general picture.
What about making part of the group kickoff we have been talking about?
The milestone kickoff, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I already scheduled the sessions, but those are only verified release. So it's
I mean, yeah, that would be just us, but I think that would be already helping a bit and keeping it small.
Well, in case of Juan and I don't know, Rayana, maybe in your case as well, it sounds like it's more cross UX department. I would love. It sounds like a super useful thing to have GitLab full wise.
Yeah, but we can start small. We can start with ourselves and then find the approach. For example, we know what our user flows are. We know the commonality, so environments, deployments, whatever. We can try to map those out, and then with that ready, bring to other teams and say, hey, help me figure out how those things connect, rather than having 30 designers trying to fill in a doc or whatever. I think for us it would be much faster to just do it.
Cool. All right.
But I'm curious about something. If there was ever a way to do it in a non-manual way, what would that be? I mean, is there really something else better than just telling people, hey, identify the areas of where you have stake? I think it's basically an effort of people to go and say I don't know what's the document, right? It could be a table, it could be whatever, but I think it's more like an effort of people saying hey, I acknowledge that I own this page, or I own this feature, and if you ever have to work with this, or now that I own, I have vested interest in this particular feature, So if someone is gonna work on that, come on, talk or inform me. That's more or less what we're doing with MR widgets right now. I mean, trying to bring everyone who has certain interest or certain. I think the MR widgets initiative of having that sync up is a micro version of this. I don't think it scales well, because that means that we will need to have one of those channels for environment variables, one for feature flags, one for blah blah blah, and then we will have a million channels, and it doesn't scale, right? But I'm just trying to put these questions here just to make sense of the size of the problem. It's not that easy to solve. It's easy to solve for us here in this section. It's very hard to scale, So I think we should be a little bit more creative on how we're gonna fix this, because it's a problem. I experience this at least twice a week. I don't know. I'm gonna work on something. I don't know who should I talk to or be aware of. So I know that I'm giving more problems and not solutions, but I thought that I wanted to say that.
Sometimes you have to go through the problems before you get the solution, so it's okay.
For sure. And I think even for myself, like when I worked on the release stage, right, before we broke it down to progress delivery and release management, I had such a hard time trying to like figuring out what were the user flows, what are the things that I own, right? So sometimes it's even difficult to have this overview. And then it's something that I'm working on touching someone else's domain. That's definitely something that I really miss having, since we're only talking about problems, since something that I miss in GitLab. We have clear, for example, category and vision and maturity pages that talk about the product, that talk about the marketing, but we don't have anything that talk about user flows. In release management, for example, we say that we are not working in such, we're not building workflows for release management, but I still need to know what the user flows are. And I cannot find this anywhere in GitLab. And I would, for myself, I would love to have that. So at least I know what do I own, you know, and
Yeah, and that's a good point, Hannah. When I was talking to, Nadia, the designer, Nadia, she mentioned doing the category maturity scorecard, but they couldn't actually do the first jobs to be done that they wanted to because it was using something that somebody else owned and it was broken. So she had no responsibility, like she couldn't fix it even to do that scorecard. So this is a bigger problem than, just us too. So, you guys probably know that, but it's definitely something we should think about how to tackle because the sense I'm getting is that people don't know how pervasive it is until they run up against it because they're trying to do a task or trying to design something or trying to do a flow. And then it's like, well, whose is that and where are they at with it? And can I get them to move that up to finish it so my thing can work? Or should I work on this thing because it's going to be impacted by their thing that's not finished yet? So it's a lot of that. And I'm not sure that the product managers have a good grasp on that either.
Because you see that reflected on how things are prioritized and how things are built. It's just like, oh, we need to put a button here, but there's no conversation about ownership and yeah. I'm looking for like some APIs or whatever things that can build visual workflows because I think it will be nice to have this documented somewhere, but the way I visualize this as a deliverable is just having a place where I can see the whole thing and just choose like merge requests and that highlight there and see everything else that touches merge requests and see who owns that and see which group, which stage, which designer, which developers. That's kind of how scattered. I think that would be useful to me, at least the DRIs, but really see the connections. If you folks know something like that. Yeah, if you who are people that are watching this video, please comment below. Let us know.
Well, hey, but I think it's definitely makes sense here to raise this point and involve more people into the discussion. Maybe somebody has an idea, or maybe somebody already tried doing something. We just have to make it more known and start from there. Yeah, I think that could be a good point. Yeah. I can go ahead and create an issue and just tag the UX department and ask if anybody was coming across that these similar issues. And also, I don't know, like I feel like it would be, yeah, I like the idea of starting small, but I don't see a reason why not just to go and make a matrix, just like we have DRIs for everything else in GitLab. We can maybe try creating a handbook page where we could define those type of things. Of course, I leave the curious what you guys think. Obviously, you have a bit more experience there, but I almost feel like, yeah, why to start in our own stage if it feels, for example, a lot of things that Juan is talking about are not within our stage groups. It's further. So I'm not sure how helpful would that be if we would start smaller. Why not like just try it?
I think it would be nice to have this, secondary part of scope. Like we start small, we start with identifying what we know, because I can go and ask everyone about, what's going on in their stage groups, but I think it's useful if we can already come with some sort of information, and then maybe as a pilot, we do CI/CD workflows, and then we start a CI/CD, oh, not CI/CD, sorry everyone, ops plus something, ops plus whatever, and then we start building out with the counterparts. Because my experience with all the big initiatives is that they will die faster because they're, we needed to dedicate time and dedicate effort to it. I agree. We need to have this for everyone. My opinion is that if we start small, it's always best. We can deliver something faster.
Makes sense. And yeah, I trust you here, of course. You have more experience, so yeah, for sure. Makes sense. And question, maybe a little clarification. When we are talking about user flows, could you help me to understand a bit better, like what do we mean? Because for me, it's like the user experience, user flows. It's about the user. Are we talking on the same page or?
Yeah, to me, it's, for example, as a release manager, right? What is the user flow for creating a release with GitLab, or analyzing the status or the health of a release with GitLab? So what are the places that you need to go and the paths that you need to follow? So you definitely need to go through settings, you definitely need to go through releases, tags, and dashboards, and environments. So to me, not the workflows as in step 1, 2, 3, but yeah, more high level. Does that make sense? I know that user flows and workflows are, anyone has a different opinion.
No, that makes sense. And I'm more trying to see how that connects with the DRIs that we have been discussing. So it's it's basically when you are working on the, let's say, create release flow, that user flow would help you to understand which other sections you will cross in your work, you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in the GitLab history, we have never worked with something like that. So we have never created a workflow before. Because like usually I think that's the UX designer responsibilities, like as a part of like the feature build up, or curious how we have been tackling this in the past. Anybody has any history?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Curious. Rayana mentioned that that we would take advantage of having user flows for when we are working with the features, etc. And what I'm saying, in the past, we've been creating user flows as a part of like working on the feature. So for our biggest, most important features, we will be having the user flows because it helps us to see exactly like how the user interaction is happening, which part of the product he or she will be touching. And usually that's something that UX drives. Curious if we have ever worked with the user flows in GitLab. If yes, where would be the place to search for those?
Yeah, I mean, some of the issues I know in the past, personally I've used them just by creating like flowcharts and those kind of things. And I forgot the name of you can do it with like the horizontal stripe. You can, say like, all right, this is what the user will mostly do. And then the alternative options, you can connect them. I forgot the name currently, but used them in the past, and it's worthwhile to put them, but we don't have like a specific database that we can refer to. It's always all in the issue. There's not a common other database of information we can refer to.
I see.
Yeah, if you open an issue, Nadia, I'll have a look and then I'll start kind of putting together some requirements, and then maybe we can discuss this async.
Yeah, I'll tag our team then, and I will just in case create it not in our verify release that I anyway Juan needed to move into the other project, so we will be able to link it. But yeah, I'll do it. We can start it from there.
Yeah, the thing that's always with these kind of things I find is, is the overhead worth, like the value that we're gonna get out of it, or is it just another thing we have to maintain? If it's not, it's perfect. But if it is, then what is the point in it? I think the more cross-functional and the more people add to it and make use of it, then yes, then can show enough value for us to validate the effort we need to put into it to maintain it.
Are you talking about the user flows or about the DRIs for the functionality or the features?
No, like if we have some kind of like common overview of user flows across stage groups and those kind of things.
Yeah.
This could definitely be a requirement, for example, it needs to be automated. We have some sort of information already in the handbook, and we have those includes where, they're like, you can get the list of the DRI, the group, the whatever feature. What if we can populate the data from existing components of the handbook into something that gets automatically,
I mean, on the other hand, right, like it would be kind of cool to have like some kind of like when you go into a theme park. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but if you go into a theme park, you have this map you get, and it always looks so colorful and with all the happy little drawings of, all right, there's that attraction, there's that attraction. But what if you had something like that of the GitLab product that you could see, all right, but now a user can do this and follow this route, and then they will arrive at, all right, they can configure their environment scopes, and then, oh, but if they take this other road, they do this other thing and create a pipeline configuration. I don't know, something like that.
My worry is that, like, I know the tool with the complexity, like GitLabs, they have so much ways of doing things. Also, like creating a release could be done in like so many ways, I feel like, and users can derive from so many different places with different intentions. So yeah, I'm a bit worried about the complexity here. And if we would be creating those user flows based on like what exactly flows, because for a lot of things I can imagine.
One big thing about this is that many of these workflows can be achieved from the CLI, right? Like many people are doing that, right? Like many people are creating issues from the CLI, and then we're creating. I mean, if you can create a merge request from GitLab itself, go to gitlab.com and create the merge request and everything, but no one's gonna do it like that way, So if you document that workflow, you should, just for the sake of documenting it, but like the actual core workflow that everyone uses is being in the terminal, creating the branch, creating the upstream branch, and then pushing the branch, and that creates the MR for you, right? So that's the one that like I feel 80 or 90% of the people are using, right? So it's kind of easy to just assume that one workflow is the core workflow because it's the one that it's in the GUI, but it's not, So I don't know. I think that's another area to consider. There's many of these things happen from Git itself, and people just like doing their work on their environments and their code editors and their terminal, and then GitLab is just like that end visualizer of those workflows, but many of these workflows are still happening inside their computer. So how do we, I don't know, how do we reconcile those two things?
Yeah, well, this is a good food for thought, and I think we could start by the first topic we tackled about the DRIs, and see if that will have any influence on the user flows. And and maybe we should also like, would be curious to reach out what other teams are doing, right, about the user flows and how do others track that. But maybe we can bring this up in the UX Weekly, for example, as well. Because I feel like I'm missing a bit of a history here.
Sounds good.
Anyway, I will go ahead and create this issue. Let's continue the discussion there so then everyone else could see as well. But I think this was a good topic. And thanks, Rayana, for raising that. I made some comments in the doc. Cool. This was a long, productive talk. Anybody has anything else to add, to ask? Okay, sounds like no. It's also wait, it's actually time. I see everyone else in the UX Weekly then.
Bye, everybody.